This episode is sponsored by Revel Woods. Revel Woods is your source for premium hardwood and resilient flooring. Using the Revel Woods Selector tool, you will be able to find curated suggestions for each specific project based on criteria such as style, color, zip code, and usage. Because the species of wood that performs in a laundry room in Key West is not going to be the same as the wood that will perform in a living room in Chicago. And how do you know that? Well, Revel Woods helps you. Know before you specify. And when you sign up for a free professional membership, you'll get access to exclusive discounts and referral benefits. Visit revelwoods.com to get started. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and today we have another on-air strategy session. This has been such a fun news segment. If you missed the first one with Melissa Fields, be sure to find it in the show notes, especially if you want to learn a few insights on why you might be getting inquiries that aren't exactly the kind that you want to have. Okay. Now, today I'm with Cassandra Thurston, a Jersey girl, my LBI buddy. Cass is building a beautiful, intentional business, Cass Thurston Interiors. She specializes in East Coast casual designs on Long Beach Island. And as of this recording, she is in the side hustle stage. This is what Cass wrote to me. I've been doing this part-time for 2.5 years while working in corporate full-time. I'm ready financially to make a significant shift to try to do my design business full-time. I'd love to explore different revenue streams and marketing ideas to start driving sales and filling my pipeline. Well, let's help Cass navigate this exciting transition. What do you say? Hey, Cass, thanks so much for joining me for this live on-air strategy session. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Luann. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
I am too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the very succinct question that you sent me, Cass. It's so funny because normally I get like 15 paragraphs. She's like, nope, I have one question. I need to know it. So you wrote down that you've been doing this interior design part-time for 2.5 years while maintaining a corporate full-time job. Like just hats off right there to you. And that you're ready financially to make a significant shift to try to do your design business full-time. And you'd like to explore different revenue streams and marketing ideas to start driving sales and filling your pipeline. And so you're coming here for the magic, bullet wand idea, right?
Exactly. If you got it, I'll go.
That's it. So when I read this, Cass, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind that I would love to have a little background understanding on is, have you determined for yourself yet what is, like Vinny calls it for a business, the cost to be open number, right? Like what is the bare minimum that I have to make to pay the lights and to, put gas in the cars and things like that. And so you're not running a business outside of the home. There isn't the same traditional cost to be open number, but in your case, it occurs to me there's a cost of not having a full-time job,
Right.
But that might not necessarily be your cost to be open number, right? So like if your full-time job is bringing in $100K, for example, maybe you and your family have determined that, hey, if you could do $20K the first year, we'll be fine. And so whatever the numbers are, I'm curious, have you considered that angle yet? Do you know what that information is?
Yes, that's the first thing I did when I wanted to try to figure out how I could take this full time. So I did a financial analysis together with my husband. We do budgeting anyway for our personal selves. So we looked at what my take home was from my corporate salary. And then first we did apples to apples. So in order for me to replace it, what I need to bring in. So we did that. And then we also looked at kind of a phased approach where instead of going from 100 to 0 in terms of a corporate life, leaning into more of like a part-time. So I work at a really progressive company. They do have flexible work arrangements. So I am in the process of dropping to part-time. So dropping from 40 hours to 20 hours a week. That way, that gives me still some salary, guaranteed salary, while I'm building up the revenue streams for my interior design. And then, my projection is probably in about a year or so, I can then shift to full time. If that happens quicker, even better.
Right.
But that's sort of my projection. So yeah, I looked at first apples to apples, and then for now going to part time and supplementing with a certain number for the interior
Okay.
design.
So then I guess my first of all, just other things that are interesting for me to know. Your current corporate, they're okay with you scaling back, and is this out in the open? I'm doing this because I'm going to be full time as an interior designer, or is it more like so large that nobody cares, or is it no, 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 no? This has to be on the DL. That would really jeopardize things.
So my first reason for going part-time is actually to spend more time with my daughter. So that is exactly it. My husband was a stay-at-home dad for 3.5 years. He recently went back to work full-time in the fall. And when we were exploring preschools and all that, I was like, man, I was still working full-time after maternity leave. And I was like, I haven't had some like quality time, like
Yeah.
before she's 3.5, before she goes into kindergarten. I'm like, man, I really want some time with her, so that was actually my first reason to even talk about part-time. And that happened in the fall. So this is sort of a cherry on top. If I do have some extra time that I'm able to dedicate towards this. But yeah, I mean that in my life, I kind of think about, I have three different roles: my professional corporate life, my mom life, and then this interior
Mhm.
design. And so it's constantly a work on balancing those three.
Mm. So I love that because it came from a true place. And I love the evaluation too, because, they go fast. Like I would manage to be a full-time mom for 4 weeks before I was like, I'm sorry. I have to go
Yeah.
back to work. Like,
That was
no.
me. That was me before maternity leave. I went back early.
Yeah, yeah,
Can
like,
I
I'm
come back,
done.
please? Yeah.
Exactly. The thing is, though, that and I always make that joke because it's true, and it's true of me and true of what I wanted to do to be happy, but owning your own business always gives you the flexibility to be the mom, and
Right.
that was the thing. So we never looked at it like, oh, Lou, you work 40 hours or you work 30 or what. It was like, look, I work unless she's sick and then I'm home. And
Yeah,
I
exactly.
work unless there's an author's tea and I'm going to the school from 11 to 2. Like that was how it was. So,
Yes. Yeah,
and most weeks were well over 40, but the idea of the
exactly.
flexibility of being able to be with your little people is nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for that. But the reason I asked is, and it's going to come in, when we think about marketing, but is it eventually is there an like I'm just literally trying to check the box, is there an opportunity for letting coworkers and people know that I'm an interior designer? Is this a possible marketing stream, or is it nope, this is not going to be good when I finally leave, or when I back it down to maybe 10 hours, whatever it might be? But is this group of people viable people to market to, is one of my questions.
I think so, probably eventually. Like my immediate team knows that I do interior design. Actually, my manager loves interior design, so we always talk about it. She does her own house, so there's definitely familiarity there about. And I think this generation now, everyone does side hustles, so it's becoming so much more like okay to talk about and say
Okay.
like, so long as you're doing your work and you're delivering on your what you're getting paid to do, which has never been an issue, and that's my first priority. um, I do think that, like, as I get more into it and later on, figure out how to do that, I definitely could do that.
Okay. It's listen, it's not going to be our biggest revenue bucket, but it's sometimes people have said to me, absolutely not. There's no crossing of the things. It's not going to be kosher. We cannot do this.
Yeah.
So I was just curious. Okay. Now, back for a moment to your budget analysis for personal finances for the house. You don't have to share the number with me. That's not relevant. And I can tell from your conversation that you're not like, yeah, we kind of figured it out. Like, I mean, there's people that are like, yeah, I know. And you're like, but do you really know how much money you need to make? Right. So I'm trusting that you've done it and I know that you know the number. So I don't need to know it. But the question is, taking that number, say just replacing the 20 hours a week first off, and then ultimately the 40, have you translated that into projects? In other words, my average project is $6,500 for a full room flat fee, and therefore I need 4 of these a quarter in order to, like, have you done that yet?
Yes,
that's
what that was my next step, was figuring out how, actually from your recommendation, you told me to do that on the beach walk.
Okay. I didn't remember that, but that's so funny because I just want to interrupt and say, this is how you do this, folks. This is how you do this. Like, yes, you don't just guess. Okay. But okay. So I didn't remember that I mentioned that to you on the beach.
I wrote that down. To figure out, okay, so if I do have 100K or whatever the amount is that I want to hit, it was close to that. And based on my average of projects, like how many of each of the services that I currently do, based on history, do I think I need? So I have that like kind of spreadsheet of broken out by that. I think and I did that for the projection of complete replacement. So I think anything right now, as I'm working part-time still corporate, anything that gets close to that's great.
Right.
Like when we did our budget analysis for me to drop to part-time, I didn't include any revenue for design. That's all going to be extra because when we made the decision, it was for me to be home with her. So anything extra that we can have in terms of like covering our cost of living is extra,
Right.
Whereas right now I've been using the money that I've been making and I'm putting it right back into the business. So I haven't taken like any salary or anything like that from there. So I do have my spreadsheet of my services really are like new builds and new construction and that average cost. I've also done like furnishings. So you mentioned like just a room. It varies from a room to a whole house. I also do design days. So 5 hours set, one and done. And then I've been actually offering like virtual consults. So if you have like a design dilemma, getting on for just an hour or 2 hours, I've been able to do that as well. So I've broken out the services, how much the average is or how much I would like to charge for them. And then, exponentiating, is that a word?
Projecting,
maybe? Yeah, projecting, multiplying,
right.
dividing to figure out how many I need of each. And then now figuring out, like, is that realistic? Like, is it realistic to say, or what's a different way to get at that number? So if I have 3 new builds, like, wow, okay, is that realistic? Like, do I need to market more to builders now, or do I actually target the homeowners and say, actually, let's stock up the design days because those are one and done. We can, set it and forget it. I go in for the 5 hours and then I go out.
Right.
So what's the balance? And I have not reached that balance yet. I don't know yet where to focus. And that's one of the background. That is the background of why I reached out with that question, is to figure out kind of where to focus and my different target audiences from B2C to B2B, and how to build those different revenue streams, because that might guide me on figuring out just how many of each of those services that I can take on.
So I love, you're like easy to coach because you're smart and you're 3/4 of the way there before I even am in the conversation. So the thing is, it's just fine tuning it a little bit, right? It's just getting a little bit to that clarity. And
clarity.
Yeah. So what I would do is, you mentioned different types of design service, new builds, new construction. I'm not sure if I wrote the same thing over again. I don't know what's different between those. There's something
Same
different.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
New build, new
Yeah.
construction.
Okay.
Yep.
Furniture packages, design days, virtual consults. Okay.
Yes.
So what I would do is now take your spreadsheet, if you haven't done it already, because I'm suspecting you may have, is for the last 2.5 years, put them all on a spreadsheet and put down how much each was the gross income from each. So the total gross income. If you can figure out, and if you've been doing autopsies, you might know what your net income from each was. If you
Right.
have that information, put that as well. And then put how did that project come to you? And do it for each one of these things, because every time I have this conversation with either somebody coaching on the design side like this or in Exciting Windows, we almost always discover things that we were making assumptions about.
Right.
So, simple assumptions like, oh, Bob the builder is my best resource for new design projects. And then you're just like, huh, I've done 6 and 2 were from Bob and 2 were from Joe and 2 were from Sally. And it's
Right.
like,
Right.
oh, but Bob I like so much more and the
Yeah.
project lasted longer. So I thought they came from him. And so the thing is, it's interesting. Sometimes something is revealed, sometimes it's not, but it's a great first place to start. Other things get revealed from this. So I remember one time when I was working with the chairman of the board, and her business is B2B. So she's a drapery workroom to interior designers. And when we did this as a very first step, the first time we had our very first meeting, we get together, and also extremely smart, very analytical like you. And she said to me, here's the list of all my existing designers. She goes, and this is the percentage of business that I get from each of them.
Oh.
And she turned it around and she just went, because she already knew the answer before she even showed it to me. She looked at me, she goes, I think we have a problem. And I just looked at her, and like 65% of her business was coming from one designer.
Wow.
Which in itself is a little like, okay, I'm on thin ice. But then the knife in the heart was, and she's like, and she's over 60 years old. And we were
Oh.
just like, oh, Houston, we have a problem.
Right.
And so we knew from the first 15 minutes of our chairman of the board year together that this was a Mach 10 priority. We
Right.
must
Right.
expand this business out to this is a mature business, a 20-year-old business. And here, by just looking at this numbers, this inherently analytical person learned a very particular piece of data. And I'm acting
Yeah.
like it's a big secret. It's a case study on my chairman of the board. It's Peggy Morgan's. The way I'm like, it's public knowledge,
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's interesting. And this is what I love about an exercise like this, because smart people like Peggy is a person who tracked her stuff. Peggy is an
Right.
analytical person. And this little detail. And the thing is, I don't know that I would say the detail got buyer, but you minimize it. You're like, oh, it seems like a lot
Exactly.
of business from this one line. And then you look at it in cold hard data and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what happens is sometimes it reveals positive things, though. Sometimes it reveals, that, wow, this is a really great revenue stream for me. Like if that designer had been 40 years old, we were like, yay for this designer. Let's,
Right.
Send her cookies every week. Let's keep her in
Yeah.
business.
What samples can I give her?
Right? I mean, we would have built out the other end of the business, but it would have been a different strategy. It would have been
Right.
leaning in, making sure she's loyal, making sure we're making her feel accounted and cared for, and all the things. So I would love to get that data from you, right? Where did all of your
Yeah.
existing jobs come from? The second thing I would like you to do is also look at the profitability. If you can go back to the profitability, because maybe new builds are 50% of your work, but they're only garnering 15% of the profitability, right? We don't know.
That's my assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then, so that's the second criteria, is to look into the profitability. And just like I said, we're just gathering the information. We're not necessarily going to run off the plank with it yet. Right. And then another criteria I want you to look at is, which ones do you like doing? Like, which ones do you really like doing? And here's the thing, Cass, there might be a nuance to the answer of this. It could be that in a perfect world where I was not a mother and I did not have a part-time job and I didn't have a husband and I just got up every morning and did what I darn well pleased, that I love doing new builds. But it also might be, yes, I enjoy those. But the reality is that in this phase of life with a 3.5-year-old and a part-time job and all the things, it might be that there's a longing and there's a desire and there's a romanticism about them. But when you think about plucking off design for a day for X amount of grand, one
Right.
day a week, you might be like, for this season, this is
Yeah.
actually my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right. So, and understand that we don't need, like, when your child is 3.5, we're not making decisions for 5 years. We're making decisions in increments of a year.
Yeah.
You know
If
what I mean?
that, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, in a year and a half from now, she's in kindergarten. It's a
Yes.
completely different world and
Different
it's a
world.
completely different decision. So to not get tied up on, oh, but I really want to always do new builds. What I want us is, we're trying to figure out the path between now and full time. And
Exactly. Right.
that path may coincide with her entrance to kindergarten. And so it might be that at the end of the day, you turn around and you're like, when you get all these numbers together and you figure out the profitability, and like, what if we learned something like, I have this 2 or 3 places where I'm typically getting the referral for designer days. And that's like, I can lean into that. I can
Yeah.
get more out of that. And you're like, oh, and if I do one designer day a week, like, I make my cost to be open
Right.
number. And so now for the next 18 months, any new builds are gravy. And the first time I get an opportunity to do a new build that's going to impact my time with the baby or impact my time at full time, I say, sorry, Cass
Right.
isn't available 3 months. You got to put it off. And now, I'm sorry, on Long Beach Island, you're creating me. Be like, wait a minute. Yeah, I got to wait for 3 months. Like, it's, well, Cass isn't always available. Like, you got to get on her wait list. Like, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing, is my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, that's my goal, is to have a pipeline, because the more I can project outward, the easier it's going to be able to shift to full time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know your net profit numbers, and I don't know your pricing strategy, and that's something like we can get to on the beach, by the way, if you want. I'm totally happy to do that.
Next beach walk, I'm adding that to the agenda.
But what I'm saying is that there is when I always say on the show, you want to be right or get what you want, right? And so there's at this season of your life, and with this strategy of trying to get out from under the corporate, I would even venture to say that, what if you had the financial strategy to get out from under corporate by this September 2024? But what if you said, I'm actually going to leave corporate, but I'm still only going to do design 20 hours a week and
Right.
leave 20 hours for the
Exactly.
baby.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Like, we're not necessarily, just because the goal is to leave corporate, if we want to pull your just part-time design to replace the part-time salary and leave the full-time replacement until she's in kindergarten. So there's steps to it in all the ways, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because this is your last year and a half to spend 20 hours with her.
I
Right?
know, it's crazy.
Believe me, there's a lot of hours. There's a lot of hours of your lifetime with her, but there is something different and special about, like, we're just going to get up and we're going to spend half a day on the beach today, and I don't have to tell
Yeah.
anybody anything about it.
Right. Exactly.
just
Yeah.
gonna-
It's that flexibility and being able to prioritize and her,
Yeah.
and be able to do things that you want to do with her before she's in school full day.
Exactly. So I would say what we're going to do is we're going to make this spreadsheet. We're going to continue the spreadsheet, just build out the data on it.
Mhm.
So it's, where did they come from? Their gross profit. So the
Yep.
thing, if you can kind of guesstimate, or you have the figures on the net profit, and then what really makes sense. Like, the aspiration is to be to do new builds on the island. I get it. But what does make sense for this next 18 months? And then with all of that, now you're going to look and be like, it's actually, I have a really good pipeline leader for design for a day, or I have a good pipeline leader for the the virtual, or you have a good pipeline leader for the virtual, but it really doesn't garner enough money for you to not to be on the beach to
Right.
do it. Like, I don't
Right.
know, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it not enough, right? Or you might learn that the big pipeline leader is the builders, is the big projects, but are we getting enough profit margin out of them to warrant the time away and to be able to manage them? Because you have this moment to not screw up your reputation, right?
Right.
You're going
Right.
to do design there for many years, and you're 18 months away from being available from 9 to 3 without any problems. So we don't want to take on projects that, she's sick and it's daycare and it's this and it's that. And now all of a sudden you're the designer that doesn't show up, right?
Exactly.
So that, and the thing is, I think, did you just take Design for Construction 101 or 201 at Lou University? Did you do that, either of those?
No,
No.
not that one.
Okay. So I would want to know, how built out is your Design for Construction process, right? Like, I know you enough to know that I'm sure it is process driven, but the idea is what we teach in Design for Construction 101 is being able to deliver that book, like,
Right. The binder.
before ground breaks. Like, so, dude, you don't need me if I'm at author's tea. Here's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Yes,
have the
exactly.
answer. And then the cool thing about Design for Construction 201, what Kathleen teaches, is she takes you to her 10 years experience with predominantly doing design for construction projects. Okay. She takes you and outlines for you and explains the five critical phases that you as a designer should be on the job. Like,
Right.
these are the places, the questions are going to come regardless of how good your book is.
Electrical walkthrough.
Exactly. I'm sure it's, you know what I mean?
One.
Right. And so what happens is if you're not already, you want to get organized to the point that when you take on a design project, it's like, by this date, the book is done.
Exactly.
By
Right.
this date, like, the ground, you get the commitment from the builder, ground is breaking here. Here's this walkthrough. Here's these 5 dates. And we're not going to be, so inflexible that if the builder is back a week or whatever, but you are prepared. You are, because that's the whole key. First of all, it's the whole key in delivering a great client experience and a great
Exactly.
experience
Yes.
to the builder. But when you're managing a baby and a corporate job and your projects, this is the key. It's like, I know in September that I'm expecting to do electrical walkthrough this week. We might have to get the date marked down with the builder as we get closer. But when the PTA says, can you be class mom the 3rd week of October? You're like, not that week. Can I take
Exactly.
November?
Right.
Right? It's like that
You can plan
level
it
of,
out.
yeah, it's that level. And then what happens is, these things are the things that impact the profitability of the job for you, but they impact your ability to do it happy and organized and with the 3 hats that you wear, as
Yes.
opposed to the mom hat is screaming and yelling because, the boss, the designer hat is like, shut up and stop doing that. Let's stop making peanut butter. We have to do walkthroughs. It's like, this is the week I do peanut butter. That's the
Yep.
week you do walkthroughs, right?
Right.
Right. So, and then, none of this is really getting you to your actual answer. Where's the marketing, right? But you see, we need this information to
Yeah.
get to
Yeah.
that answer, right? And then it's figuring out where current projects and past projects came from, figuring out which ones actually make us the money, figuring out which ones we're happy to do during this season of life.
Right.
And then with that information, we go back in. Because if you said to me, I do the virtual, to make a couple of bucks. I don't want to say no to it, but it's really not satisfying. I don't feel like it's that good. And it's $200. I might be like, you know what? Go to the beach. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, stop.
Let that one go. Yeah.
Keep your brain happy. Keep your brain happy, because this is this
Yeah.
finite 18 months of your life, right?
Right.
And we're not just making money to make money. We're figuring out what matters, right? But you might be like, you know what? I put out like this information about that I do the virtuals, and I can set up 5 virtuals in one day from 9 o'clock to 2:30 when she's done at preschool, because she's in one day, or my husband has her that after,
Yeah, yeah,
mother,
yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
And you're like, I can make $1,000 by the end of the day. Yes, all day long. Right. So once you have all of this, then that's the next step of figuring out in relation to the budget that you figured out. So now we tie it back to that. You figured out what you need to bring in order to cover the 20 hours. So we've already walked away from the 20 hours that you took now that you're mommying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So our
Yep.
next step is, well, we want to replace the 20 hours that you're actually working still. And what's that combination? So now we're going to go back and we're going to look at these jobs and this data, and we're going to be like, you know what? 1 build a year, 1 designer for a day, 2 a month, and 3 virtuals gets me to that number. Like, now it's not crazy. Now it's not scary.
Right. Now it's achievable. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and maybe it's more than that. And it's like, oh, and what's the difference for if I want to go full time, off corporate for good in September, what I need to do that? Like 2 builds a year, 3 builds? Like, do I need 1 a quarter? And the thing is, now we look at what you said, what is realistic? But if we look back and we see that I've got, in 2.5 years, say I've got 5 builds and they're from 5 different builders, well, that doesn't tell me that it's a slam dunk to get new builds out of these guys this year. It tells me I can do it, but I got to work for it. Whereas
Right.
if I look at 5 builds over the last 2 years and 3 came from 1 builder, it's like, me and Bob have to have a conversation.
Right.
like,
Right.
like, you see, it's just like the nuance in there of, what does my past teach me? And we are going to make adjustments, and we're going to lean into different things, but we're looking for the path of least resistance, the path of most likely to succeed is what we're trying to uncover. And, when you break it down like this, it's funny because, I still do the sales meetings every Monday with JC at WindowWorks with the sales team. And we had a one-on-one meeting with one of the sales reps yesterday. And I asked, where are you? We just finished Q1. Where are you year to date on your yearly goal? And it was interesting because this is a very accomplished salesperson. Basically, the review was a raving review of the work that this salesperson does. But it was interesting because the first reaction was, I don't know where I am versus year to date. Like my goal that I said, because I was like, well, we have a yearly sales goal
Right.
for you. And, we have a goal for Q1, and Q1 ended. So what did you do versus the goal? And it was just interesting because it was out of not out of negligence. It wasn't out of laziness. It was just didn't know. And I said, well, how do we know where we're going? And so if we don't know where we're at, and what was interesting is that it was revealed that the salesperson was off 35,000 for the Q1. Now, in window treatments, that's 1 sale. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
It could be
Right.
5 little sales, or it could be 1 sale.
Right.
So this wasn't like, oh my God, your dog.
Yeah. Panic.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I said, so now let's look at the monthly goals for Q2, and let's add 12,000 to each of those goals. Let's get you back on track by mid-year. And what was interesting is just the tiniest little bit of, all right, well, if you want me to do it this way, I'll do it this way. But by the time we talked it through, then came the understanding of, I said, if you do 35 off Q1, say you do 35 off if you do 35 off, no 1 quarter does that feel like you were dogging it. But at the end of the year, you're $140,000 off your number. Right. I said, and that's a significant impact when your goal is $1 million.
Right.
You're off 10, 12%, right? 15, whatever that
And
is,
then it's a
right?
mad dash at Q3 to try to fill in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and the thing is, it impacts the earnings at WindowWorks, but this is your pocket. You're a commissioned
Yeah.
salesperson.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you are a grown person, run a family. And so it was like, oh, you know what? 12,000 more this month and next month, and that's doable. That's one intentional conversation to close something down and bring it to fruition, rather than just letting the gods, bring it through the front door whenever they
Right.
deem it. So that's where you're going to go with this. You're going to go
Right.
with, what is it actually take, and is it that hard, right?
Yeah. And I like that the approach of breaking it down by quarter too, because then you can course correct quicker by figuring out, and especially for interior design and new builds, and there's definitely a season to it,
Yes.
right? Like especially on LBI, nobody touches anything during the summer because they want the rental income, or nobody they want to stay one more summer. Yeah. So knockdowns never happen until September,
Right.
if you're lucky and early and can get the gas shut off and all that stuff done on time. So there's absolutely like a seasonal cadence for this, which is why in the springtime is when I start thinking about, okay, these people are going to start looking for houses now. They're going to think about what they want for their new builds in the summer. Thinking about, you said, of delivering I haven't done the guide before ground has broken, but the designs are done and approved and all of that. The other way I've approached it with builders is actually being their client facing for selections. So taking off, which is something we talked about, of like actually structuring that service a little bit more, which I still need to do.
Yeah.
That's my to-do list. But actually creating that as a service to say, hey, builder, I know you're a great builder and you want to focus on that and project manage it so you can deliver it earlier and on budget and all that stuff that's really important to builds. And I can take care of the client experience of making it beautiful, of all the selections, walking them through the different showrooms if needed. There's a lot of local vendors, so it's not like we're going, all over the place. Helping them select, giving that, ordering it, doing whatever, so that by the time you're framed out, you're insulated, the sheetrock's on, and you're ready to install light fixtures, they're already in the rooms. So figuring out how to package that, because that also would be during the summer and people are down during the summer, and it's just it's easier because the other part of this is my target audience for homeowners isn't usually local. They usually are living elsewhere in Jersey or Philadelphia, and this is their second home that they come to mostly during the summer, or that's their plan. So it's also interesting from a marketing perspective on phase 2, understanding all of this now is great. Phase 2 is then unpacking that a little bit, because I can go at the builder for that, and I can also go at the homeowner. But it'd be good to see the breakdown of like where each of those is coming from.
Yes. So yes, and all of that 1000%. And I would add thoughts that went through my mind as you were saying all those things. Is a couple of things. Is I'm going to make a note so I don't forget this one. Okay. But the couple of things is that when you're speaking to the builder, when you're going to figure out your proposal for them, and blah blah blah, and I know you just were talking, but I'm going to zero in. You were like, hey, if you want everything to turn out beautiful and blah blah blah, the builder, listen to me. Here's what you want me to wrangle your cats for you, right? That's it. It like literally, I would be like, how many times have you gotten to the electrical portion and you're like, oh my goodness, lady, you didn't pick your lights yet? I told you to do that 3 weeks ago. Now I've got my guys here and we're supposed to be hanging all your chandeliers and your pendant and your sconces, and you're driving me to drink on this, right? Like that's the thing. Like you got to say to the builder, you're running around, you're doing your thing, you're doing multiple homes. Let me wrangle your cats. Right? Yeah. Let me put them in a box and make them go from room to showroom to showroom to showroom, make the selections. I can procure it. I can order it for you, whatever it is. And let me tie it in a bow for you, because I guarantee you that's the pain point, right? That is the pain point.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
they're ready to roll, and nobody at their office dotted the I and crossed the T to find out that the tile that was back ordered when they picked it back in September, actually in December, no one
Always
repicked it.
tile.
Right?
Always tile.
And you can just imagine the builder looking at the one person in their office who answers the phone, and him or she going to this person, you mean you never called them back and said, go pick another tile? Like literally, the chaos that happens in their offices.
That's exactly,
it's insanity.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So that's your big sell to them, and what you have to do is you say, talk about the delays, how each thing creates a delay. And yes, I'm going to ask you for 5K or 6K or whatever it's going to be to do this. But think about a full month delay costs you what, 10K? I mean, Brad Levitt told us it was 10 to 12K for every month you delay. So you get a delay in the beginning because of electrical. You get a delay over here the next month because of tile. Like we're into 20K. You don't want to give me 5 for that? Stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, you've got some builders that you've done it for. So you're going to perfect it, package it, sell it, put it in a little bow. And then the next builder, if he's resistant or hesitant to do it, so maybe you're like, look, I do one for you at no charge, or I do one for you at half the rate. Like this is where we have to break into a market. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's breaking in. Yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, now I just heard myself say that. So I would not want to make a fool out of the guy that's been giving me the business and paying for it. So there would have to be, in my mind, maybe a value add as opposed to a money off, right? Like I just heard it as I said it off the cuff. And it's like, no, what could I give you? If you give me, 2, I'll give you, instead of 2 for 10K, I'll give you 2 for 75. Or if you give me one, if we agree on one, I'll add this. Like we'll figure that out. But we don't
like
want to
adding
make
a furnishing package or
something
like
just we got to sweeten the pot if we get resistance.
Yeah.
Now we might not get resistance. You might get people like, oh my God, you're going to wrangle my cats. I'll take 3, please. Right. But when we get resistance to somebody that doesn't understand the before and after, you're going to run into builders that don't get the before and after. They don't understand it. And so we do sweeten the pot for those deals, and we do it one time, and we do it under a very logical, within a logical boundary that, like I said, that the guy or the builder that has been giving us business isn't like, really?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, like United and the airlines, they make me crazy. It's like you can have 95 billion points, but you can never use them.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the flight doesn't work or this. And I'm like, so this is my reward for being your best customer ever. Like nothing. Like,
I can't use it.
Right. Like,
no flying for you.
Yeah. It's like, this does not make sense. This pisses me off. You know what I mean? So we'll figure that nuance out. But I guess, and the other thing I wanted to tell you in that whole little thing, and it's a good thing I made the note, is Anastasia Harrison, okay, ADH and Co. She's an architect designer in New Jersey, in Westfield. And,
okay.
And Anastasia and I have known each other for many years, and we're doing some renovation to our house at the beach, right? And so I want to give you a little perspective into the consumer's mind. Okay. And keep in mind that this consumer has interviewed 1,000 designers, and I still was like, duh. Okay. So I call Anastasia in like December, and I'm like, hey, thinking I'm all ahead of the game. Hey, Vin and I have these like 3 or 4 projects at the beach house. One of them definitely requires an architect. The other 2 or 3, probably don't need an architect, but they need they need a designer, right? Like I need you to figure out the walls and the things like that. But, and we just really don't have any idea. Like, are we talking about 50K or 150K? Like we have no idea. Yeah. And I can't even begin the process without understanding this. Like I can't even pretend that I'm debating it in my mind if we're going to do it. And I said, because understand very clearly, these are wants, not needs. The house is perfect. It's fine. Yeah. This is like, okay, let's
by the beach.
Yeah. Let's just make it perfect. You know what I mean? And so depending on what it costs, it may or may not be like the thing that we do. And I said, and the thing is, I'm calling you now. I said, because if we could do it before Memorial Day, that'd be awesome. Her first boxer back to me is like, there's no way this is happening before Memorial Day. Like, she's like, I got to get down there. I got to get drawings done. We got to get permits. Like, maybe, but that means like for the next month, you and I are not doing anything other than this.
Yes.
And she's like, so like, it's 2 weeks till the end of the year. Like, and are you available for the next 4 weeks undivided time? I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, me either. So that was the first aha. And it turned out that there were the two of the projects could have been done before, because, they were just very simple, right?
Yeah.
Building a podcast studio out of a hallway, put up 3 sheetrocks things and, put some insulation and blah, blah, blah. But the thing was, when I ended up doing all that traveling in February, everything got held off. I'm in Germany and Las Vegas and all the things, and babysitting, Juan Carlos while Christy and Lucia while Christy went away. And so now we start to talk again the beginning and middle of March. And it's like, okay, so this isn't going to happen before Memorial Day. And this was the mistake that I made, despite having interviewed 1,000 designers. I was like, so we're going to wait till the fall. We'll do the summer here. So should we put something like in the calendar for September? And she comes back. She's like, Luann, like, if you want to break ground on this in September, we need to be working on it now. I've got to do the site visit with you. We got to, basically, she's like, you got to change your mind 15 times on me over the next thing. Then we got to pick all the things and let's get them all delivered to your garage so that when they break ground, it's all there. And I was like, oh my God, I knew this. Like I knew this, right? But my aha, Cass, was that if I couldn't relate that back to all of this education, having interviewed you guys for 8 years, I really would have been like, I don't know, it's a little extra. Do I need to be doing this all summer long with my grandkids here? And I'd be like, maybe August call us. Like I would have, and depending, I'm sure Anastasia would have wrote me in and she would have led the conversation. She would have explained it to me. But I'm telling you, this is how lesser experienced designers get into trouble, because you have a strong personality like me who doesn't know their butt from Shinola on what to do with this. Okay. And I turn around and say, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, I'll call, all right, call us in the beginning of September so we're ready. And if you're less experienced, you might be like, well, I'm just saying it's a better, and I know Anastasia. She didn't need to do it, but I know she would have been like, sweetie, we're not waiting until September. Exactly. You want to break ground. You want this done by the holidays. We're going to do it. And
here's the timeline. Here's the process. That's why it takes so long.
Exactly. So my only point in that is do not make assumptions that garden variety humans understand. And I do think on the island, when you talked about seasonality, there is like the garden variety human seasonality is in September, even if it's I'm going to paint the whole place. Then in September, I'll call for a painter.
Right.
But the ones who are prepared are calling the painter in May and booking him for September.
Him on the calendar.
Yes.
Because everyone's doing it.
Exactly. But I know that what seems normal to you is not normal to us. And being on the island and any place, anybody listening that has a seasonality to their business, it seems so logical to you that of course we'd have to do the prep to be ready for September. And the rest of us are like, no, I'm like going to the beach with the babies.
Right.
Don't bug me.
Yep.
So, but we will. Vin and I will put the time in with Anastasia over the summer, and we will get the things done because we do want it to start right away. And why not do all that crap while I'm traveling High Point and all the other places in October? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just when you think about your marketing and you think about how you're going to repackage your services, just like we were talking about, the actual pain point of the builder is wrangling the cats. To consumers, your pain point is, I understand the summer is busy for you and that's the time to enjoy, but The people who are lining things up and getting things done are the people who are going to get the builders, the contractors, the tilers, the painters in September. The people who don't, that start the planning in September, are going to be fighting for them in December and begging for things to be done by the
Right.
holiday. You know what I mean?
Especially because most want it done. I mean, really, everyone is like, can you get it done in 9 months? Because they want to use it for the next summer.
Exactly.
So it truncates the timelines even more that
Exactly.
if you can plan and prep now for next summer,
Yes.
you
And the
can
thing is,
mostly do it.
we want to think that's ridiculous. We want to think that that's ridiculous. Like, that was the first thing she said to me in December. Like, I don't know for this. And I was like,
Yeah.
come on. It's a little dramatic, isn't it? I really was. I was like, all right, it's a little dramatic. She's like, Lou, like, things have to happen.
This is for real. Yeah.
She's like, if we had everything ready and the builder lined up, breaking ground in January is crazy for May.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
if you can even get in the ground. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, not like I keep using the term breaking ground, but like breaking my walls up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. I was like, I'm not building a whole house. I'm just knocking some walls down and reconfiguring the kitchen and the dining room here. Like, how bad could this be? And she's like, So, so it's, and again, I really am just stressing, you would have thought that would have been clear to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really, really wasn't. So somebody that hasn't had 1,000 conversations, it's like, okay. Yeah.
Education.
Yeah. And to hit the pain point, it's like, I get it. Cause you would, if I didn't know any better, you'd have to hit me with the pain point. You don't want to take the time away from your weekends in the summer, but you're going to not get in this house again next May. You're going to be here all over again. So at some point, you can take your weekends at September to plan, but then you're not in this house next summer, right? Or you can take your summer weekends to plan, which I might need you 2 hours a day every second weekend, but then you're going to be here by Memorial Day. So you got to just, all I'm saying is go heavy on it. You're the leader in that. You're the expert. In my experience, this is the case. That's what you're going to say.
Yeah, I love it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did we answer your question? And what do we need to leave you with to follow up?
I think we got to what's even before the question, which I think is even more important. So like I was already thinking about different revenue. I was like 2 steps ahead, basically.
Okay.
So this conversation has showed me, before I even can figure out the revenue streams that matter to my target audiences and all that, I need to first understand those different services, my income profit from each of those, where they're coming from, and which I like to do right now in this season, 18 months, because that will tell me who to market to. And then I can start being really creative and figuring out how. Exactly. So this was fantastic, because that's sort of my mode, is to always think ahead. Yeah. But sometimes that trips me up, because I need to focus on this first before I can get to those pieces. And being a part-time and being a solopreneur, how do you even say that?
Solopreneur.
Solopreneur.
You're going to need
I always
to know
read
a new
it
language.
And I'm like, yeah.
You can leave in corporate now, Cass. You have to learn the language of entrepreneurship.
Let me just circle back with you on that. Then. Yeah, I think understanding all of that will help me do the next pieces better.
Yeah. Because if we just come out with marketing, then we're going to get jobs, but we might not get the ideal jobs or the profitable ones. It's so funny, because I've told this story on the podcast. Also, I'll leave you guys with this, is also Anastasia, how I originally met Anastasia going back like 5 years ago. It was, we were at a Monogram event in High Point that we were strangers and both invited to come to a dinner at the thing. And we happened to sit next to each other, and we start talking. And of course, we're both from Jersey. And so like now it's shorthand. It's like, I don't have to be overly polite. I can just talk.
So true.
I can just start asking you questions, I can tell you the truth when you ask me my
bypass.
questions. And we hit it off. And about 3 weeks after that, she called. She emailed and said she wanted to call, and we get on the call, and she's like, I want to hire you to help me with my marketing. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, what's going
yeah.
on? And she said, well, I'm $1 million firm. I want to hit 3 million by the end of the year. And I was like, okay. So I started asking her different questions, right? It's kind of like reading your thing. It's
Yeah.
like, what
Yeah.
revenue stream should I lean into? How do I market to them? I'm like, well, let's find this out first. And so the thing is, I start asking her different questions about her business, all the different facets, like I did with you as well. And it gets revealed that her team is not solid. It gets revealed in the conversation that she has a particular point person, let's call them, that is in my opinion was a cancer in the business at the point, right? And
Oh,
that's a cruel way to put it. It just had gone its thing. I'm sure the person is a lovely person, totally wonderful. This person isn't a cancer, but it just the dynamic had devolved,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's a very harsh way to put it. It just this person just shouldn't have a seat anymore, right? And because of that conflict, it was creating conflict with other team members that could have been salvaged and maybe should have been, but I wasn't there yet because we have this one major player
Right.
that
Right.
she was describing these conflicts and also kept saying, lovely person, like her personality, blah, blah, blah. But this is what we keep running up against. And I ultimately said to her, we were talking about 20 minutes at this point, and I said to her, I said, no, I'm not going to work with you to build out your marketing. I said, I want you to call my cousin Eileen Hahn. And she's like, why? And I said, because she's an organizational strategist. I said,
Oh,
you have a people problem. And I said, and when you have a people problem with the person who answers the phone, we fire that person and we fire a new one. We find a new one. But when we have a people person with a key person, this is a tough road. This takes exploration. Is this, like I call them, is it rehabable? Or
yeah.
is it
Right.
a cut the rope? And even if it is cut the rope, like how do you cut the rope up with a key person? Like that takes finesse and that takes, thought and care. Like this is a person you care about, right?
Yeah.
And you also have to determine, is this really the problem? Or am I, as the leader, the problem, not doing right expectations, not setting out things, and I'm the problem? And I said, but this is Eileen's superpower. She will help you figure out if you're the problem, if this person is the problem, if the dynamic is the problem, but she will figure it out and she will put you on your path. True to Jersey.
Yep.
Anastasia goes, that's all fine, but I just want you to help me to get to 3 million.
Yeah, I'll call them later.
Yeah.
I'll call her later.
And I'm like, yeah, no, like, and she's like, Lou, I get all that and I'll figure that out. I know I have to deal with that problem, but I just need a marketing plan that's going to work and going to fill my pipeline and get this ship moving. I want to bust it out. I said to her, I said, sweetie, I said, if I work with you just to bust the pipeline out, I said, you are going to crash and burn.
Right.
Because you
Yeah,
don't
because
have the
internally you
team
can't deliver
to
on it.
support
Yeah.
it. I said,
Yeah.
we don't want to bring you $2 million in sales, and every one of them is a crap referral, and they're running around Westfield saying, "Don't use Anastasia," right? And literally, this I love Jersey people. She's like, "Yeah, but like, let's just get the marketing going, and I'll figure that out."
Yeah.
I'm like, no, bud, I'm not going to do it.
So who won?
Oh, I won. Well, because I just said, look, you might, but you got to call somebody else. I, in good conscience, am not going to help you build up something that I expect that will break. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. Great lady. We had a great dinner together. I'm not your girl. And so with that, she called Eileen and the dramatic. And what I said to her was, I promise you, you work with her, you make the organizational changes. I will bet you 90% possibility you sail right to 3 million without any additional marketing. You know what I mean? Like, it's your reputation. The ship is going to glide, and then that is going to reverberate into your sphere of how good the team is and how good the projects are done and how nice it is to work with you. And I said, and if for some reason it doesn't, call me. We'll work on the marketing. Well, guess what? She never needed to. And she literally, like, the work that they did together was transformational. We talked about it on the Overheard episode that aired in January or February. I'll link it in the show notes. It was kind of interesting. We didn't do it a big deep dive on it, but she did go into in that episode some of the things that Eileen and her worked on and how come they made the differences. And so I just, it's just, the thing is, you can't put the cart before the horse. And
Right.
that's sort of this same thing. It's like, I could just take your question at face value and be like, all right, packages for this and let's do that and blah, blah, blah. But what if what you need is 10 designers by your side, or whatever you call them, design days, and you get from here until September easy, like,
right.
and you're like at the beach with the baby and your mom and your dad and your husband, like figure it out first, because you have your whole career to do the sailing to 1 and 2 and 3 million and having all of the revenue streams humming and going,
Yeah.
So,
No, I love that outlook.
Yeah. And then the one other thing I did want to add is that 2 tips I would have for you. Cheryl Luckett's episode, the very first episode she was on the podcast, because I think she's been here 3 times at this point. As a matter of fact, I'm 100% sure she's been here 3 times. The first episode, I want to say she calls it Project 36, where she took going from corporate full time to having a design business, and she did a plan over 36 months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
is there one episode I haven't listened to of yours?
Yeah. That's going back to, I want to say 2017. Okay.
I'll go back. Maybe
it was the first time I met Cheryl, and I just was so impressed at how, and your brain clicks like her brain. You're going to like it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure there were some tangible things that she did there. A matter of fact, I know when she ultimately launched her business, she had this big buildup of the marketing. And so you'll probably get some tidbits from that, whether we, in my mind, I could see that coming a year from now, the build up to when your daughter goes to kindergarten, right? And then the other episode that comes to my mind that might be helpful for you once you have got this back end work done and you are thinking about the marketing is Dala Afawarez episode. And she was on in 2019 or the end of 2018 or the beginning. It was definitely Q4 or Q1, 2018, 2019. And she went from corporate to her own firm. And when you want to talk about grassroots, like, how do I let people know I'm in business? Like, there was no, well, that feels funny. That feels weird. I'm not going to do that. I feel like I remember that she made a list of 100 people that she would call and say, I'm now an interior designer.
Oh,
I used to be this, and this is what I'm doing. And what I know from being in sales for many years is the first 1 or 2 phone calls are awkward as all. You were just like, but once you do it, you just need the one person to go, oh, that's awesome. I don't need a designer, but thanks for telling me. And you're just like, this isn't hard, right? And then what happens is, out of 100 people, you need one person to know one person that needs a job now. But the other 100 might think of somebody in 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. But she really had also a very intentional marketing plan for coming out the gate. So those are 2 episodes that I would love for you to go back and listen to.
I will absolutely do that.
All righty.
Yes. Awesome.
Right. So you feel good. You feel like you have a plan.
I feel wonderful.
That's
I'm
awesome.
So excited. I'm going to be doing the spreadsheet tonight.
That's fun. Well, I won't be at the beach for 3 weekends because I'm headed to Dallas for 100 hours, 100 years, it seems like.
That's right. Yeah.
So I leave, as we're recording this, I'm leaving in 2 days and I'll be gone for 10 days, 11 days, whatever it is. And then, but I'll let you know when I'm back in town, and we'll
reach out. I'll be there.
Review what you've done as we walk beautiful LBI.
Yes, I'll bring my spreadsheet.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for doing this with me today. I appreciate it, Cass.
Thanks so much, Luann. I'll see you soon.
Okay, are you inspired to work on your spreadsheets as well? I hope. What I love about these coaching sessions is that for sure, I hopefully help the person in today, Cass, with their business, but hopefully you might be listening, nodding along, seeing yourself in these shows as well. Often our problems are the same, just different day, different variety of them, but business is business, right? So whether you're trying to get out of a side hustle or scale in some other way, I'm pretty sure that a lot of this could apply to you as well. Let's break down what Cass needs to do to move forward. First of all, Cass needs to know her cost to be open number. You do too. This is what is called the minimum amount of money your business needs to generate to cover its basic operating expenses, the rent, utilities, salaries, and other essential costs. It's the bare minimum required to keep the business running, even if it's not making money, let alone a profit. But don't worry, we're going to get to making profit, right? Next, I recommended to Cass that she conduct a thorough analysis of her past projects. Where are her leads currently coming from? What are the gross and net profits for each kind of project she does? And which types of projects does she enjoy doing most? And which types of project make good sense in this season of her life with her preschooler? Only after you've done this work and understand where your time and money is going and coming from can you really set out to figure out what to focus on. For Cass, this means concentrating on projects that align with her role as a mom and a working part-time person in corporate over the next 18 months. Now, once she knows these, she can reverse engineer what she should do, whether it's 2 new builds a year or 10. Breaking it down in this way puts it into an understandable perspective. And I like to put things in quarterly chunks, right? Because then you can say, I need to do this across the year, but in the first 4 months, that means I have to do 3 of these or 2 of these. And you just okay, it's the second month of this quarter. Do I have 1 done? Do I have 2 done? You just keep on track, right? So we understand our numbers, we know what we need, and we've broken it down into how we can get to our goal. But now we need to target our services, right? That's what Cass needs to do next, right? In her case, she's looking mainly to builders, and she needs to speak to their pain points. This is essential to understand. We just can't walk into a builder and say, hey, I'm pretty fabulous. You and I should work together. I mean, really, it's just not going to work. It's cute and it's nice, but it's not going to work. Instead, we have to demonstrate that you understand their challenges. You know the things that cost them money, like delays, and that you know the things that increase their efficiency, like not dealing directly with the homeowner on endless selections and reselections. Cass knows these things, and I'm encouraging her to figure out ways to convey to the builders on LBI that she knows these things. It may take telling them a few times. It may take being creative in striking that first deal or two where you or she makes their life easier and their business is more profitable, and then they will call on her again and again. All right. The idea is that she needs to paint an incredibly vivid picture of when they work with her that she has things covered. Okay. Now, I'm also going to link in the show notes all of the episodes with Brad Levitt of AFT Construction. He is a luxury builder in Arizona. He has his own podcast where he talks with builders and business people about the process and the profitability of the construction field. He was a speaker at Luann Live in 2023, and he's a good friend of mine. He is smart, kind, and you will definitely learn from him on how to improve your ability to work with and attract luxury builders. Okay? So, whether you're like Cass and working with builders or homeowners and investors, don't forget my story about my own work with an interior designer. Okay, sure, I interview you guys all day long, but I still don't know all the ins and outs of the lead times and the things that you know. So please don't even for a second assume your client will understand how long it takes to get a permit from the county or the town, or how long it even takes for the paint to dry before you can put the carpets in. I mean, really, okay? They're not going to get it because the only thing on their mind is, when can I get into my space? right? So have some grace that they don't understand it. Don't make assumptions that they do get it. Talk it over and talk it over and talk it over again and again and again in all the conversations that you have with them, explaining your process from the beginning. And just like when you go and you're approaching builders, have an understanding of your homeowner and their pain points, okay? So here's the thing. Cass came in wanting some marketing ideas, but we figured out that she has to button some of this up before she gets to the marketing point. Because here's the thing. If you don't have your services set up for success and your processes in place, what good is the marketing anyway? You don't want to bring all that business in and have it come crashing down because you can't handle it. And in Cass's case, I'm not at all I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure, right? What's the way? I know. How about this? I know that Cass can handle any project that comes in at this point. I know that she's got the chops to do it. The difference with Cass is what projects does she want to do for this next 18 months? Instead of just building a marketing plan and bringing anything through the front door, I want Cass to bring through the front door the ones that work in her life. Okay? Because once she understands that, then she can understand how. And then my guess is we'll probably figure out the how on a walk on the beach this summer. All right. So I hope you found something in here that resonated with you. If you're interested in coaching, there are several avenues that you can explore. I do offer private coaching one-on-one through my Chairman of the Board program, where I guide and support you for an entire year, helping you execute or create your company's mission and vision, as well as co-create with you a strategic plan to get you to your goals. If you're interested in that, go to luannniagara.com/COB. I also can coach and work with you at a Power Talk Friday event. The next stop is in New Jersey this June 7th, and then we will be in Las Vegas on August 2nd, and then we will be in High Point on October 25th. These are all 2024 dates. These are powerful one-day events that will supercharge your business savvy with big results. Go to powertalkfriday.com to learn more. All right, and then finally, another way to up your game and your business acumen is to attend Luann University. Next winter, that will be in full swing. We will have registration opening in the fall of 2024. Okay? And then, of course, if you just like this on-air format and want a quick, little tune-up for your business, you can do an on-air strategy session. And I'm sure there's some place in all of my world to click on and find that. Okay. Now, we're on the road to 1,000, folks. Yes, we are, my friends. We are there. July 12th, 2024, we will hit our 1,000th episode. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook for all the details as we count down the top 5 shows of every year from 2016 to 2023. And we have a big giveaway scheduled for Instagram live on Instagram, July 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Cass, for being willing to be here and vulnerable on the show in front of everybody. You are a rock star, my friend. I am not worried about you one bit. You are going to build that business that you're imagining for yourself. We're just going to get that little baby of yours settled first. All righty, and thank you for showing up and doing this with me. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Niagara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannniagara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.